But you see, what I didn't realize at the time and what Kevin had to learn the hard way is we were breaking an unwritten and unspoken rule of show business. And if I say it, you'll know that I'm telling you the truth. The rule is that no matter what you do in your artistic expression, you are never, ever allowed to upset.
They tried to cancel the most fearless comedian of our time. Netflix employees walked out, Twitter went into chaos, and the media rushed to declare his career finished. But Dave Chappelle didn't flinch. When he stepped back on stage, the game changed. Here's what really happened. Chappelle isn't just a comedian, he's a cultural force. This is the same man who turned down $50 million to stay true to himself. That tells you everything. So when he chose to take on woke culture, everyone knew it was about to shake things up.
Biggest Jim Carrey fan in the world. Now, I'm not going to go all into it, but Jim Carrey is talented in a way that you can't practice, rehearse. What a God-given talent. I was fascinated with him. And Norm knew that. And he called me up and he goes, Dave, he says, I'm doing a movie with Jim Carrey. Do you want to meet him? And I said, fuck, yes, I do. And it was the first time I could remember since my father died being excited. In the movie, it's called Man on the Moon. I didn't know any of this. And in this movie, Jim Carrey was playing another comedian I admired, the late, great Andy Kaufman. Yes, and Jim Carrey was so immersed in that role that from the moment he woke up to the time he went to bed at night, he would live his life as Andy Kaufman. I didn't know that. When they said cut, this nigga was still Andy Kaufman. So much so that everybody on the crew called him Andy. I didn't know any of that. I just went there to meet him, and when he walked into the room where we were supposed to meet, I screamed, Jim Carrey! And everyone said, no! Call him Andy. And I didn't understand. And then he came over and he was acting weird. I didn't know he was acting like Andy Kaufman. Just like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, hello. Andy? Now, in hindsight, how fucking lucky am I that I got to see one of the greatest artists of my time immersed in one of his most challenging processes ever. Very lucky to have seen that. But as it was happening, I was very disappointed. Because I wanted to meet Jim Carrey, and I had to pretend this nigga was Andy Kaufman all afternoon. And he was clearly Jim Carrey. I could look at him and I could see he was Jim Carrey. Anyway, I say all that to say, that's how trans people make me feel.
It all started with The Closer, his Netflix special. He kicked off with a seemingly harmless story about meeting Jim Carrey during the filming of Man on the Moon. Carrey was so immersed in his role as Andy Kaufman that he never broke character, even when Chappelle, a longtime fan, wanted to meet him. Then came the line that set the internet ablaze. That is how trans people make me feel. One sentence, an explosion. The backlash was immediate. Netflix employees protested, activists demanded the special be pulled, and the media branded Chappelle as hateful. But instead of apologizing, Chappelle did something unexpected. He stood his ground. In later performances, he explained, society confuses discomfort with harm, and just because someone is offended doesn't mean they're right. This resonated with comedians who were tired of tiptoeing around sensitive topics.
I didn't realize at the time, and what Kevin had to learn the hard way, is we were breaking an unwritten and unspoken rule of show business. And if I say it, you'll know that I'm telling you the truth. The rule is that no matter what you do in your artistic expression, you are never, ever allowed to upset the alphabet people. You know who I mean. Those people that took 20% of the alphabet for themselves. I'd say the letters, but I don't want to conjure their anger. It's too late now. I'm talking about them L's and them B's and them G's and the T's.
Chappelle's take on what he calls the alphabet people sparked even more outrage. He argued that the LGBTQ+ community isn't a monolith, but a collection. of different identities moving together. His perspective opened a conversation many are afraid to have, one that questions whether every issue can be simplified into black and white narratives.
People be surprised. I have friends, all kinds of letters. Everybody loves me, and I love everybody. I got friends who are L's, I got friends who are B's, and I got friends who are G's.
What sets Chappelle apart is his approach to comedy. He doesn't just tell jokes, he crafts narratives that challenge audiences to think.
A lot of sports I be thinking about. Like think about, okay, say LeBron James changed his gender. You know what I mean? Okay, can he stay in the NBA, or, because he's a woman, does he have to go to the WNBA where he will score 840 points a game?
Bit about LeBron James hypothetically transitioning. At first glance, it might seem provocative, but beneath the humor lies a serious question about fairness and equality, one that few mainstream figures dare to address.
You know, you hear all those letters together all the time, LBGT, LBGT, and you think it's just one big movement. It's not. All those letters are their own movement. They just travel in the same car together. And my guess is
Chappelle's brilliance lies in his ability to weave humor into complex discussions.
like women are actually equal to men, then there would be no WNBA, would there? You would just be good enough to play in the NBA with us. Or, here's another idea that's gonna be very controversial. You could shut the fuck up.
Ridicule her transition. Instead, he points out the irony of someone earning the title in their very first year as a woman, while others spend a lifetime striving for such recognition.
Whom I've met, wonderful person, Caitlyn Jenner was voted Woman of the Year. Her first year as a woman. Ain't that something? Beat every bitch in Detroit, she's better than all of you.
This distinction is key to understanding Chappelle's comedic style.
Something? Oh, I'd be mad as shit if I was a woman. I'd be mad if I was me. If I was in a BET Awards sitting there and they're like, and the winner for Nigger of the Year, Eminem, my man.
His comparison of Rachel Dolezal to transgender individuals is another example of his layered humor.
Black bitch that's in the news all the time. Rachel Dozer. She always says that. She's a white woman, but then she dressed up like a nigga and shot her way up to the very top of blackness. And I always wanted to meet her just so I could understand. I just wanted to like have dinner with her so I could just look in her eyes and call her a nigger to her face. The fuck is that bitch talking about? I identify black. That is trans talk, ladies. Stop biting. Stop.
Even if he doesn't claim to fully grasp either experience, he highlights a fundamental contrast. One is about claiming an identity, while the other involves undergoing life-altering changes to live authentically.
Between her and a trans, the difference between her and a trans is I believe transgenders. I don't understand them either, but I know they mean what they say. Them niggas cut their dicks off. That's all the proof I need. I've never seen somebody just throw their dick away. Don't need it.
This nuance is what Chappelle's critics often overlook. He's not attacking anyone. He's questioning a culture that demands blind agreement without room for discussion. As he put it, I don't understand all of this, but that doesn't mean I have to be mad about it. His perspective is far more thoughtful than his detractors suggest. I feel bad for them, but they're so confusing, and that's not all my fault. I feel like they need to take some responsibility for my joke. The media tried to frame him as bigoted, but they ignored his central point. Respect doesn't mean eliminating humor. In fact, shared laughter might be the first step toward real understanding. This has always been his philosophy, from Chappelle's show to his latest specials. What really angered woke culture was his refusal to apologize. When confronted, he didn't retreat. I'm not saying these things to be mean, I'm saying them because they're funny. If you don't find them funny, maybe the issue isn't the joke. His unapologetic stance became a blueprint for others facing similar criticism.
Effortees, but they're so confusing. And it's not all my fault. I feel like they need to take some responsibility for my joke.
Chappelle's views on identity politics are sharp, shaped by his own experiences as a black man in America. He critiques the absurdity of the oppression, Olympics, where different groups compete to be seen as the most marginalized. Instead of recognizing shared struggles, people focus on who has it worse. This observation cuts to the core of modern social justice debates.
Because I didn't come up with this idea on my own. This idea that a person can be born in the wrong body. But they have to admit, that's a fucking hilarious predicament. It's really fucking funny. And if it happened to me, you'd laugh, wouldn't you? That wouldn't be funny if it happened to me? I think it would be. What if it did? What if I was Chinese, but born in this nigga body? That's not funny.
Chappelle's ability to tackle controversy is a masterclass in strategy. He starts with a simple premise, then unpacks layers of meaning beneath it. His joke about identifying as Chinese in a black man's body isn't just for shock value, it's a sharp critique of identity debates, and the outrage that followed only proved his point. Many of his loudest critics hadn't even watched the special, yet they felt justified in attacking him. Clips were taken out of context, articles labeled him problematic, and social media went into its usual outrage cycle.
In that car. That makes sense to me, because there's white men in the G's. And these people are trying to get around discrimination and oppression. And you know how white dudes are. We know these roads. In fact, we built these roads. The rest of you buckle up, we'll get you to where you want to go. So the G's are just driving the car. Of course, next to the G's in the passenger seat is the L's. Everybody likes the L's, except for the G's. I don't know what that's about. I just know the G's don't like them that much. And the G's always say like little subliminal digs on them. It's unnecessary shit. It's not mean, but you know what I mean? They just be like, I wouldn't wear that.
But here's why Chappelle remains untouchable. He can't be canceled. His fan base is fiercely loyal, his influence is immense, and most importantly, his arguments are too well-reasoned to dismiss. If you actually listen to what he's saying, the outrage becomes harder to justify. His impact stretches beyond comedy. Chappelle has become a voice for those who feel silenced by today's cultural climate. By taking on sensitive topics head-on, he has paved the way for comedians to push boundaries again. The ripple effect of his work is changing the way society discusses difficult subjects.
There's one thing that the L's and the G's agree on, is that the B's are fucking gross. They seem greedy to the L's and the G's, you know what I mean? They're just sitting in the backseat like, yeah, man, I'll fuck anybody in this car. What's going on, man? And sitting next to the B's, all the way in the backseat by themselves, looking out the window. That's the T's. Everybody in the car respects the T's, but everyone also resents the T's. It's not the T's' fault, but everyone in the car just feels like the T's are making the trip take longer. Anything the T's say gets on everybody's nerves. And then the T's don't even say anything bad. They just be in the back talking to themselves. I'm hot. Shut up. Shut the fuck up, okay? Just roll the window down, you bitch. I don't know what you... What? Just said I was hot. Can you pull over at the next exit? I need to use the restroom. There is not a restroom for you for 4 states, nigga. Will you just shut the fuck up so we can get where we're going?
Chappelle Chappelle's response to criticism is just as calculated. He doesn't engage in Twitter feuds or issue public apologies. He lets his work do the talking. Each special builds on the last, contributing to a broader conversation about free speech and the role of comedy. His takedown of corporate activism is particularly sharp. He exposes how companies profit from social justice causes without addressing real inequalities. The same goes for Hollywood's selective outrage and virtue signaling. His critique of cancel culture cuts even deeper. He argues that the real problem isn't offensive speech. It's the attempt to silence voices that challenge prevailing narratives. They want to shut down anyone who doesn't say exactly what they want to hear, he points out, exposing the authoritarian streak within modern progressivism. What many miss about Chappelle is that his goal isn't just to provoke. He wants to spark real discussions. His comedy creates a space for open dialogue on race, gender, identity, and power. His impact on the industry is undeniable. By refusing to cave under pressure, Chappelle has ensured that comedy remains a space for uncomfortable truths. This stance has made him both a target and a hero, depending on where you stand. And in the end, the response to his Netflix specials revealed an undeniable truth. While online outrage raged and opinion pieces flooded the internet, his ticket sales soared. The gap between social media hysteria and real-world audiences has never been clearer.
And they've canceled people that are more powerful than me. They canceled J.K. Rowling. My God, J.K. Rowling wrote all the Harry Potter books by herself. She sold so many books, the Bible worries about her. And they canceled her because she said in an interview, and this is not exactly what she said, but effectually, she said gender was a fact. And then the trans community got mad as shit. They started calling her a TERF. I didn't even know what the fuck that was. But I know that trans people make up words to win arguments. So I looked it up. TERF is an acronym. Stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. This is a real thing. This is a group of women that hate transgender. They don't hate transgender women, but they look at trans women the way we blacks might look at blackface. It offends them. Like, ooh, this bitch is doing an impression of me.
Ultimately, Chappelle's greatest legacy is proving that sensitive topics can be tackled with both humor and depth. His work shows that comedy and serious discussion aren't mutually exclusive, they can coexist. Through it all, he remains the philosopher king of stand-up, using laughter to reveal uncomfortable truths. His battle against woke culture isn't just about jokes. It's about defending free thought in an era of increasing ideological control. If you found Dave Chappelle's perspective insightful, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll be back with more unfiltered takes from comedians who refuse to be silenced. See you in the next video.